Hi, I'm giving a video on program planning and evaluation, which follows Dr. Michelle Butler's PowerPoint presentation, which she gave an overview of program evaluations, and she she was helping you understand why and when program evaluations are used. She described an evaluation model, basically the logic model, and how it can be applied to an intervention. And she also showed how evaluation might be used in a clinical setting, and she asked you to reflect on ways that evaluation might be relevant to your own proposal. And so in this presentation, I wanted to discuss just a little bit more about evaluation approach and purposes. And I wanted to introduce you to the precede-proceed model, which is a model used in a lot of health program evaluations, particularly in the States. And also to talk a little bit more about the logic model and to introduce you to CAT-SOLA, which is a mnemonic that is used quite frequently to develop program logic models. And I wanted to share some examples of logic models. And so just to review that program evaluation is a systematic collection, analysis, and reporting of data about a program, and it's to assist in decision making. And a program is defined as a series of activities supported by a group of resources, that's a spelling mistake there, which is intended to achieve specific outcomes among particular target groups. And this slide is just to show that it's, even though often program evaluation models are described in a linear fashion, in fact, the actual implementation is obviously quite iterative and circular, so that you engage the stakeholders and then you articulate and describe the program in detail, and then you start focusing the evaluation design, you start gathering evidence, you end up getting some conclusions, you share the lessons learned, and then you're engaging the stakeholders again to actually modify the program and describe it again, and away you go on the next cycle. And it's sort of an ongoing cyclical process. So this slide was taken from the Center for Disease Control in Public Health in the States, a publication in 1999. And here's another kind of way of portraying the evaluation. The step one is to focus the evaluation and develop your evaluation questions, and that you do that in conjunction with the stakeholders. And then the step two is to select the methods and develop your plan and your feasibility, and just check that you can do it all within your budget. Step three is to develop your tools. So it might be focus group questions or survey questions or different types of data tools. The next step is to gather the data and analyze it, and then you interpret it. You develop your report, your action plan, you feed that back to the stakeholders, and you might begin the cycle again. And this slide is just to remind me at this stage to just share that's what I'm about to do this week. A community organization is implementing a program to support mothers and their infants, and these mothers are women who have experienced time in prison or related to people who are in prison, so the infants are at risk. We know that children of people who are incarcerated have a higher risk themselves of ending up in trouble with the law, and they have a higher rate of ending up in foster care. So these are mothers who are requesting help, and the program will support them in their parenting skills, support the children and the infants in their early years. And the community organization that is implementing this program want to see if fewer of the children end up in foster care. And so we'll be meeting with them this week and identifying who the stakeholders are, describing the program in great detail so we understand completely what is being offered, what are the components of the program, and then we'll be discussing with them what exactly they'd like to see evaluated. And I suspect the outcome, less children going into foster care, is one of many ways that we might approach it in terms of client satisfaction, in terms of different parameters. We can look at the way the children are developing, the child development parameters, the sort of interactions within the family unit, And the long-term outcome might be how many end up back in foster care, but there'll be lots of other things that we can put into place along the way. This is another way of looking at evaluation, that the purpose of the evaluation is maybe a formative evaluation, which actually is in the program development phase, and that assists in actually creating well-designed programs. It might be process evaluation that assists in implementing well-executed programs, because you're actually looking at evaluating the implementation phase. Or it could be outcome evaluation, which assists us in determining whether the program worked, and that you're looking at the effect of the program. Another way of looking at that is a little bit more of a circular model. In the formative evaluation, you're looking at, does this program make sense? What's the best way to influence the target population? How can the activities be reached, understood, and accepted by the target population? And the examples of methods to do this evaluation would be focus groups, say with a target population, or interviews with the program stakeholders, or community meetings. And why it's useful is that it helps to develop ideas for program activities. It helps to refine the program activities in the pre-test phase prior to the implementation, and it tailors existing programs to new target populations. Then the next type of evaluation you might meet is process evaluation. And that answers the question, was the program implemented as intended? And examples of methods that you might use would be direct observation of the program implementation, participant satisfaction questionnaires, interviews with the program staff, and you might want to look in the media to see if there's current events that might affect the implementation of the program. The final type of evaluation, and why is that useful? Well, it monitors the activities and it refines the activities as you're implementing them. And then the third type of evaluation would be outcome evaluation, and that answers the question, was this program effective? And the methods might be quasi-experimental, randomized controlled trial, and you're looking to say, was this program effective? What are the results? Does the program produce the results it was meant to produce? And based on the results, do you want to actually revise the program? So you can see that program evaluation is pretty complicated when you look at it like this, and so that there are various models out there to help you kind of grapple with the complexity of programs and trying to evaluate them in this way. And so one model, as I mentioned, is the precede-proceed model, which was developed by Green. There's been various versions of it over the years, but the precede stands for predisposing, reinforcing, enabling constructs in ecological diagnosis and evaluation, and the proceed stands for policy, regulatory, and organizational constructs in educational and environmental development. And this is what it looks like as a model. So we've got the precede components at the top part of the model, so the phase one. So basically these are the evaluation tasks preceding a program, of a health program, and then at the bottom, going the other way, is the proceed evaluation tasks, which is monitoring and continuous quality improvement. And you can see in the title precede is that the red letters correspond to the things in the second column under phase 3, and proceed in the title with dark green corresponds to the dark green in the left-hand column under phase 4A. So I'm not going to talk about this in more detail. I just thought you should be aware of it, that this is out there. It is highly recommended for people doing health programming. I personally find it too complicated when I'm looking at it. I would much rather use a logic model, which I find much easier to explain to community organizations and stakeholders. And when you've got a lot of people from different walks of life in a room, doing logic model cat solo way is seems to me just so much easier for everybody to get their heads around. And yeah, so I'm going to leave that one there because I just find it, I get lost in it. But it is a very comprehensive model that if you had yeah, I think there's lots of, it's very comprehensive. It's got everything in there. So as you can see, it's looking at the social assessment, the epidemiological, behavioral, environmental assessment, the educational, ecological assessment. That's even before you start looking at trying to implement your program or evaluate your program.